Hey there, bros. Thanks for looking into this very first episode of It's Not Over Yet. And we start off our little podcast series here with a good one, none other than Will Lynch, one of the more memorable and indelible personalities ever to roam the halls at EI. Will breaks it down for us in terms of his hitting the campus at SDSU in the mid-'80s as a starry-eyed 18-year-old freshman, his undergraduate career, all of the unique Epsilon Iota personalities and men that helped shape his life. We get into a little bit of his adulthood, but also, and more fascinatingly, we reach back into a discussion that we had that involves the childhood trauma that he suffered, his subsequent reconciliation with that as an adult, and the trial that he had to endure in addition to that. It's a fascinating insight into a really well-known and liked man in our realm. And I'm very grateful for Will and his openness and his willingness to talk with us on this podcast. So enjoy this episode and our discussion with none other than the pincher, Will Lynch.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
The very inaugural episode of It's Not Over Yet. I've got none other than Will Lynch here, and we're going to go top of the order, kind of how we're going to run all of these. And you got to go give me the nitty gritty. I need full name, hometown, pledge class, big bro, little bros, and any offices held.
Okay. William Lynch.
Full name, sir. You got to remember those full names. This is a third sig situation. Come on.
What are you talking about?
I need your full name, just like you had to give and get.
William F. Lee Lynch III.
All right.
Los Altos, California. Pledge class was ΣΝΑΦΥ Fall 85. My big bros, Kevin Melton. My little bros, Ken Brutus and Peter Lakoff. And Rob Stiles, I'm almost sure. I know he's in our family.
Okay.
And yeah, that's kind of... Say what
Any
else?
offices held?
Oh yeah, I was pledge trainer and assistant pledge trainer.
We'll get into that for sure, because you and I shared that role together, and that was one of my great experiences in the chapter. Thank you for that. That's a good start. What when we pledged Fall 85 at that time on the campus at SDSU, Greek Rush, Fraternity Rush was 2 weeks of an alcohol-themed party for every night across campus.
Indeed.
Who or what was responsible for keeping you coming back to the Kappa Sig house for those 2 weeks?
Well, just being like released into the wild, and I'd never been into like such a party situation ever like that. So, but I went to Kappa Sig and I never went anywhere else. So I didn't even know I was being rushed. You know, I was kind of clueless, but there were guys like Steve Freeman and Carl Allison and Ben Mawson, you know, like just a bunch of guys. And I just had so much fun there, and, you know, the girls and the partying and everything, but all the guys are really cool and funny. And I never thought of myself as a, you know, fraternity guy at all. And like I said, I didn't even know I was being rushed. You know, it was like all of a sudden they pulled me aside and gave me this opportunity, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not, you know.
Did you really have any idea of what a fraternity was or Greek system was at all?
Not really. I mean, we used to go to some Stanford parties and just like poach beer off them when we were in high school and shit like that. But I mean, I had no concept of what a fraternity was and what, you know, what was required for you to participate in something like that. I just thought it was just, you know, like free beer and chicks.
And to some extent it was.
That's kind of all I wanted. I mean, I'm like, this is great. So I had to stare into the flame.
Who chose who? Did you choose Kevin Melton or did he choose you? And how did that play out? How did that work out?
So Kevin chose me. Kevin was great big bro. You know, like I was so stoked to have that guy. I mean, he's one of the flagship guys of the house, and took me under his wing and showed me a good time, taught me a few things.
Yeah. Like what? What were some of those things Kevin Melton of all people would have taught you?
Well, I mean, you know, taught me about like what responsibility you would have to Kappa Sigma to a certain degree. I mean, Kevin was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and you remember in our pledge class, and those times are a little different. It was like we went out, I think when we pledged our class, and we tried to steal the most composites anybody's ever stolen. I would do that later, some years later, and almost get kicked out of the fraternity. I'm like, they told me to do it. They trained me.
We were only doing what we were told to do.
Exactly, man. We're just trying to excel.
You took a bit of a circuitous path through SDSU over the number of years that you were there. Describe that. What was that? What was that whole path from fall '85 to the graduation date or the date that's on the diploma?
Okay, so my pledge semester, I got a 0.97, and I got an A in surfing. I still can't surf. I don't think I went
Wow.
once. Somebody was in charge of that. And and I do remember, like, I think it was Tim during initiation, Tim Lyman, like, Mr. Lynch, did you make grades? Like, or did you get all your SIGs? It's like, no, I was trying to make grades. Did you make grades? I'm like, no, I didn't. Second semester, I got like a 0.94. So I actually, if you could believe it, decreased my output there. And then they kicked me out. And, I just had so much fun. I literally forgot to study. I'd never been in that situation before.
Were you living in the
But
were
I
you
knew
living in the dorms?
when I
Were
got,
you in the dorms those first 2 semesters?
yeah, I was in dorm right across the fucking
Yeah.
street. So, yeah, and then they kicked me out. And, at that point I was like, the only thing in my life really was Cap Sig. I mean, I was not into school at all. My parents were go to college, like, fine, I'll do it. I just want to get out of my hometown, I think like a lot of kids or whatever. And, yeah, they ended up 86ing me, and I'm like, I can't go home. My parents are going to kill me. And I had to petition to the university to, basically I met with the dean and I said, look, I come from a bad neighborhood on the other side of the tracks. I mean, I'm from Los Altos. There are no mean streets there, but kind of bullshitted my way back in. I just said, look, nobody's taught me any responsibility. And there was a little bit of truth to that. My parents were like, present parents and shit. But bottom line, dude, I just had too much fun in Kappa Sig. And then when it was going to be taken away, along with everything else, then I knew I had to do what had to be done. And so I went to the dean and petitioned that guy to let me back in, and he did. That would carry on later. There's there's a later part of that story 4 years later, but
It was a tough time then, though. The school was oversold. There was, what, 35, 40,000 students? You couldn't get the classes you wanted anyway. And we had all this going on as 18-year-olds and this social life exploding. I think it's easy to get caught up in that,
no, without a doubt. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it was hard to get classes. I mean, in those days, you could go to a class for a month and not get it.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of, at that point, just like, fuck it. I was just having a good time.
Yeah. You spanned the premise of this whole podcast anyway is to cover this arc of time from the early 80s in through the mid 90s, where Epsilon Iota had this just absolute rocket ride of notoriety, popularity, coming into our own in the Greek system. And you saw a lot of that. You were there during a big arc of that. What stands out in your mind of that during that period? Like, you were able to kind of ride that ride, if not be a major protagonist in it. What kind of stands out? What do you remember that makes that era so important, so critical, whether it's the people or the experiences?
I mean, as far as it relates to the house and stuff, I didn't realize it at the time. And it's not like, our pledge class turned everything around, but I think our pledge class was the beginning of a shift. We had a very large pledge class and a lot of diverse guys, had a lot of fun. And I think we inspired the actives, when you look back at it, as they were inspiring us. I don't know. I always just felt like everybody's pretty excited about what was going on. We didn't have anything to gauge from the past. but they did. And I think they saw a new direction coming. They kind of happened to start with our pledge class. But like you said, after that, it really became a dynamic period of time and a lot of great guys coming in.
Yeah.
House getting a lot bigger,
Yeah.
a lot more fun.
You got the email that I got the other day, 40 years. It was our 40-year anniversary
Yeah, like
from
yesterday.
initiation.
Jesus, dude.
Kind of crazy to think we're all even still here. I would have looked at guys in their late 50s at that point as being old. And, here we are still today, all of us, groups of us getting together, acting like we aren't any older than we were then, doing the same, a lot of the same crazy shit,
Yeah, for better or for worse. But I remember even back then there was guys that were, God, from the 70s that were hanging out.
Uh-huh.
So there always seemed to be there was something there that made guys want to come back. And I think it just grew with every pledge class as we move forward,
Somewhere along the line, well, whether by design or intent or just sheer rhyming ability, people get nicknames. Yours is one of the more indelible ones. Started as Dill Pinch, it moved into the pincher, and it's now a verb. You can be totally pinching. How did that come about? Who gave that to you? And did you? And does it stand the test of time?
So it does, and I still don't know what it means. I think, which is one of the things I kind of like about it. People are like, why do they call you Pincher? I'm like, I have no idea. But I think that was John. It's fucking drawing a blank. Our pledge bro. You just
John
saw him.
Aldridge.
John Aldridge. Madman.
Yep.
Yeah, he just started saying it one day, I think.
Okay.
And then I was adopted. Cheese was always big on calling me that, and kind of everybody else.
Okay. Is there? I mean, is there like a party, an event? It could have been a pledge event. It could have been something at somebody's apartment or something like that that really stands out as a moment for you that will be completely unforgettable. That if everything else fades away, this memory, this core memory, kind of bubbles to the top every time as something that says this is one of my most important and cherished visions and memories of my time as in an undergrad.
I mean, initiation for sure. On a lighter level, I mean, like I loved our little sister program. We had such a good group of girls and a good group of guys, and a bunch of people. And I mean, we just had fun. That there was a lot of uptight houses, and everybody's basing everything on money or looks or other fucking bullshit. Dude, we had a huge eclectic group of people that were all actually good people, like, and had a lot of fun. People were kind to each other. People were supportive of each other. And I look back, honestly, I kind of, I'm proud that we came through the way that we did, especially with like you and I and our guys in our pledge class and going back to those days before they started kind of cracking down on, how you handled your pledge class, every semester.
Yeah.
There
were those
what I'm
changes,
talking about. And it
all
was
those
like,
changes that came with the increasing liability, right? There was the school shifted its position on alcohol and kegs. We had to shift to a distribution method for that. We had to change how pledge classes were run throughout the course of the semester and the year, things like that, right?
yeah. And, everything we rolled with was with humor. I mean, when they're like, you can't have a little sister program, but you can have girls on a phone list. So we started calling them goffles. Girls on a phone list, fuck it. Among other things.
Yeah.
And, I was just grateful to be with that group of people. I mean, did you look at our pledge class alone? You look at the diversity in that.
Yeah.
I mean, you got like you, me, Dave McGee, John Aldridge, Brooke Corbett, I mean, all these different guys. And I don't know, I feel grateful to be a part of that, and I'm glad that I made it in. Like, I know I was, about to get blackballed probably half of the meetings there because I was like a cocky little fucker, and and I think that's something I really, really would have regretted. So, but people went to bat for me. So I'm grateful for that.
And you went to bat for people as well. I think one of
Absolutely.
my great memories of you is in some of these long and very drawn out chapter meetings that were around maybe a not a bidding session, but like a blackball session. And there were some knockdown dragouts, some finger pointing and F bombs and whatever we could do to passionately promote somebody staying in or continuing their pledgeship or getting initiated or not. um, and then when it was over, it was done. Like it wasn't carried on. And I think that speaks to both the right person in the right organization, right? People there and knowing what we were really fighting for. And me being able to say to you, you don't like this guy, I'm going to fight for him. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand by what, with what you said. And if you don't want him here, then I got to stand by that.
Yeah. And then you'd also listen. Yeah. I mean, have an open mind and open heart, have your mind changed, and at the end of the day, like, kind of like you said, when, whenever that session was over, whatever was decided and everybody had to step up and support that.
Yeah.
And if this were to happen, like, I'm really proud of the integrity that we had as a group of guys, as a group of young guys who didn't know shit about anything.
We were teenagers. We were
And
18 years old, man.
dude, I was barely 18 when I start 1 month into 18, and it's like, there's a lot of, I think there are things that would come into the space about, what a house should be like and how and all that kind of shit. But at the end of the day, I think we chose wisely, and that sort of respect for those decisions that were made. I mean, dude, there's guys that I thought wouldn't be right for the house that are some of my favorite guys.
Right.
I mean, it's and if we were to do it today, I would take any of those guys in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm really proud of for a group of young guys who really didn't know shit. I think we had a lot of integrity. We're also jackwagons bouncing off the walls, and but I mean, that's a whole nother thing I love about the house. There was always humor in it.
Yeah.
Always, even the dark shit.
Humor at yourself. You better be able to take it.
Oh,
and
God.
because if you didn't, you got flushed out pretty quick. And you better start giving it out too, because that was a method of survival.
Yeah.
You had to be ready.
It's true.
You had to be ready. You mentioned we were respectively pledge class educator and assistant pledge class educator, mom and dad. What do you remember most about that role?
Whew. I think I was a controversial figure for both of them, but I remember feeling like I wasn't even worthy at times. I did my best. I had my own kind of trips that would get in the way of me like doing stuff, but it was definitely an honor to be able to bring guys through and put a fire into them and inspire them. Hopefully I did. And I think you might identify with this. I personally had a little bit of a tug of war between some of what we were brought up in versus where things were going. I didn't fully understand. I did a little bit about, break them down and build them back up. Right. But I wish I had been more present to that, and steadfast in that. But I'm so proud of the guys that came through the stuff that I was associated with.
Yeah. That Bratz class was solid. There was, I think, probably a half dozen or more GMs came out of that pledge class, and by and large, that whole class has turned out to be really solid citizens and just good people all the way around. I think that again speaks to the right people at the right time and brought into the right environment, and they wouldn't have gone anywhere else or fit in any better anywhere else.
No, I agree. And the fact that these guys are outstanding guys today, it's just testament to the choices that we made, know? And I mean, I love the fact that we have 50 guys, like solid, any time could be involved in something, and then 25 on the periphery, and then another 25 that we don't see often, but we can find them.
Yeah. And they'd show up in a heartbeat.
And most guys I talk to from other fraternities are, oh yeah, I golf with a guy once a week. Like, well, what else?
Yeah.
Like, are you involved in anything today?
Yeah.
They're not going to other chapters today as older guys, as sort of ambassadors to the brotherhood and the ritual and all that kind of stuff. That I don't know anybody else that's doing that.
Yeah.
And we have a super strong contingent with that.
Yeah. Whether it's football games, weddings, funerals, memorials, whatever, that signal goes out and bros show up. And I think that's what we're getting at here, is that it quality that we all got, that we're trying to figure out why the ones after us didn't, if you have any thoughts on that, I'd be way curious, because there is something there. There's a tangible element to it there. And I don't think any of us in all of our discussions have ever really put our finger on it. We have a feeling of what it is. But do you have any idea of what that it is that we all have that causes us to stay connected and continue the fantasy football leagues for 40 years now, and all the big and little things that come with staying attached to this group of guys?
I was kicking that around with Brian Reed, and he said he was kind of talking about it with you, and it's hard to put your finger on it exactly. I think we believed in the ritual, like we drank the Kool-Aid, believed in the brotherhood. And one thing I think is remarkable, there's hundreds of guys, right, that have been like on our journey, and you may not get along with everybody, but shockingly, everybody kind of does get along. And if there's somebody that you have an issue with, there really aren't any kind of issues, but I know if I say that word or I reach out, any of these guys will be there, even if it's not, one of the guys that I'm the closest to,
Right.
I know that without a doubt. And I'm grateful for that. And I've had, support from guys through difficult, challenging things in my life. And, I've on more than one occasion, for my own trips or whatever, I'm just going to withdraw from this. And, for whatever my trips were, people wouldn't let me, they'd be like, dude, you're fucking tripping.
Yeah. Do you think
get out of your head.
Do you think in some ways?
plug
Do you
into
think
the
in some
beat.
ways you have almost a better appreciation for it now than you might have then?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it then, but I have way more of an appreciation. Well, it's a different type of
Yeah,
appreciation.
there you go.
I'm so grateful to have this community. And, Anita, we just got engaged. She loves, she trips out. She's like, I can't believe this group of guys you got. Like, every single one of them are funny as shit. They're all nice. They're awesome. They totally welcome me. They're a ton of fun. And there's a whole shitload of you guys. Like, who does that?
Yeah. What was your first job out of college? What did you graduate and get pushed into the big world to go and do?
So I got out of there 5.5 years, 3 full-time summer schools with a 2.1 in liberal arts, which I had to petition to create my own major because it's the only way I could combine things like consumer psychology with jewelry making, freaking random shit. Actually thought I would be a fashion designer. I did get accepted to Parsons School of Design, but there were strings attached to that with a woman that I just didn't want to go there. Like somebody that I was dating, it was a family friend doing her a favor, and we were going to have to be together. It was odd. I'm like, plus I'm like, I don't really like this business. I just like the chicks, what am I doing? So I got out, I worked in mortgage banking, and then, did some consulting and sustainable development, and worked in commercial real estate, but I've been retired for a while and just kind of, managing family affairs and stuff like that.
I jumped into mortgage banking.
Yeah, mortgage banking, and then I did consulting, like sustainable development, and then I was in commercial banking. That was the bulk of my career. But I haven't been working for probably 15 years. I retired, and now I just kind of manage my family's affairs and travel around the world going to concerts, basically.
I think those of us that know that you had, prior to your San Diego State years, some trauma in your life that kind of boiled over later on in your life. I'm not here to pry into that. I want there's some things about it I'd like to poke around, but at the end of the day, it's really none of my or our business. So I'll let you kind of guide me in terms of that. But what I would maybe a question that I would have about it is that obviously carrying that with you all that point in your life, maybe a better premise or a preface to that question is, you know, the reason I wanted to start this whole podcast with you is you're one of the more unique and outstanding personalities that has ever come through there. I say that with as much love as I possibly can. Some of what we learned
Appreciate that.
about you later on helped explain that that unique personality and helped us understand a little bit better. But knowing now a little bit about what you went through in your formative young years, how close did you ever get to telling somebody about it in the chapter when you were an undergrad, or did you?
I didn't. So I mean, what it is, is sexual abuse at the hands of Catholic priests. It was violent, fucking brutal. That dude, was strangling me. He would have killed me if he could have gotten away with it. And it's all kinds of stuff around that. It happened to me. It happened to my brother, my little brother. And when that happened, I said, we can never, ever fucking tell anyone this. And I have a certain strength. Well, because that guy threatened to kill our family and like skin our sister alive. And I'm always watching you, and you're dirty, and you're no longer a child of God. And I'm always going to be there, kind of thing. And so we just buried it. And I have a certain strength, like, if it didn't come out, it would have killed me. And it almost did kill me on a lot of levels. Sure. But back then I had that stuff way deep down inside me. I had a lot of anxiety, as cocky as I ever was, or however it might have been. I've said and done things I'm ashamed of, stuff I don't like. It was hard for me to be my true self because I got sort of erased from my true self through this fucking sicko who actually, in a weird way, it's like I'm born of two fathers, my dad and this guy. So, a lot of times, whatever I projected, it was all based on insecurity, and I just couldn't allow myself to acknowledge it. I think somewhere in me, I knew, which is what happened eventually, that once I acknowledge it, it becomes real, and I couldn't turn my back on that. So, I had a lot of acting out, and it translated into some really good times and some funny things, and then some other stuff that wasn't so good. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like I wish that I could have brought that out, to somebody. But and I think everybody is, nobody really knew. So when all that shit came down, I mean, that trial, when I went down there and, beat the shit out of that guy, I mean, basically, I tried to have him put in jail. They said statutes of limitations, we can't do anything. He's sitting down there with access to children. I'm like, I'll kill myself if I find out he did this to anyone else. After expending every possibility, within the law, I just took matters in my own hands. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to fucking kill this guy, and then I'm going to let the police kill me. And just to stop this stuff. And, the ensuing, like within the realm of that experience with him. And, honestly, there's my family and other groups of people that cared about me, and I would put Kappa Sigma in that, helped me to make a choice not to become that guy, and take him out and sacrifice my life in the process or whatever. And, so I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of is going through that experience. That trial was insane. I mean, Mark Garagos was one of my attorneys. It was, you know,
I
um,
want to get to that because there's a
international.
story. There's a neat story about him. But what I want before we get to that, a lot of years went by before you took the actions you did. Was there a tipping point in your mind, or was it just the kind of the lid being lifted off the volcano and you making the decision to go down to where he was living and make your way in there and do what you did?
So over time that my brother came out about this, I still was in denial about it for some years, but I knew it. It's a hard thing to describe. I didn't want to let myself acknowledge that it actually was real. But I did come to that realization, and then I'm like, fuck. I mean, dude, I've never ever felt um so removed from myself. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna come through this thing at all. But um, one day I just woke up and I'm like, I was super calm. And I'm like, I'm gonna go down and fucking take this guy out. I've tried within the law. No one will fucking stop this guy, and I'm not gonna let him hurt any more kids.
How old were you?
And
How old were
so,
you at that time? And kind of what else was going on in your life? Were you married? Was there any like where were you living? Like what was kind of the center of your life at that point?
I mean, I was living in the city, but I was married. I mean, I can absolutely tell you that this contributed to my divorce
Yeah.
profoundly.
How could it
Um,
not?
and then like I said, I mean, let me give you an example of like one of my buddies I grew up with. I went and told him when I finally acknowledged this happened, and I'm like, "Hey, man," I go, "Dude, this happened. It's real. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. I'm like, I hate myself. I feel afraid to be alive. I can't stand to be within the own confines of my soul within myself. I go, I want to kill myself. I don't know what I'm gonna do to get out of this." And the guy's like, it's like, dude, you're like one of the strongest, guys that I've ever known. And I've been kind of been modeling my life after you. And then he goes, now what am I supposed to do? I'm like, it gave me a laugh in that moment. But all that shit, you guys saw a ton of it,
Yeah.
in Captain Sig back in the day, especially, it was all fear based, all insecurity, all that kind of stuff. So it had me, as it relates to the fraternity, feel like, I'm not really worthy to be a part of these guys. And so I withdrew, you know, to various degrees at various times, but I always had bros coming back and, even before this all came out and keeping me in the fold. And then when it all came out, I think a lot of questions, like you said, got answered for everybody. And I had the bros really step up and support me. I mean, I had some guys come to the trial and, I saw you guys at the football thing in Vegas and everybody was just super supportive. Um, and you would have been more if you'd known more, sooner. I'm certain of that. It's just, I think everybody's shocked as fuck. I mean, a lot of guys are like, dude, I was, you know, eating a steak in front of my TV, drinking a beer, and I fucking, you know, this huge fucking trial. And that thing, that was a trip.
Yeah, I can
I'll tell you
imagine.
right now.
Garagos first, one of the preeminent defense attorneys anywhere in the country. How'd you get him? How'd he come to you, or did you go to him?
Well, the day after I went down and did that, I came home, didn't tell anybody. I was so I knew that his brother was a cop, and I knew they were keeping him hidden away with other pedophiles at this retreat in Los Gatos up on the hill by a vineyard. 18 institutions from preschool to high school within 1 mile of that fucker. I tried everything within the law, couldn't do anything. I go, fuck it. I go, I'm willing to sacrifice my life to stop this guy from ruining anybody else's life. I knew his brother was a cop, so I called up and I said, I work with his brother up in Reading. He's been killed in the line of duty. I need to come down and meet with Gerald Leonard. And, we're going to need a private room and you'll probably hear a lot of commotion because, they were very close and I'm a close family friend. So I lied my way in there, and you know, it's a surreal situation. And as I'm going in, they asked my name, and I never even thought about it. The first thing that popped in my head was Michael Jackson, and I'm like, I don't think that's gonna fly, you know. And I'm not going to say the person's name, but I picked a fraternity brother's name because it's a unique name. And I think I had a piece of me thinking, you know, if I wasn't killed, maybe I can get away with this or something. And this fucking poor guy, you know, it turned into just the trial. He's got a family and shit, you know, everything was in the news, and it got cleaned up real quick. And I called him up and I just said, dude, I'm on my knees begging your forgiveness. And I said, please let me come down and meet you. And I drove down to LA to meet him, and he was totally gracious, but he's like, dude, why me? And I'm like, dude, we weren't like super tight, but I have nothing against you, man. I I thought I was going to get killed, and this is all going to be moot. You know, it's like kind of fucking crazy. But anyway, in that situation, when I was in that, I came to a point, you know, the expression your blood runs cold. I literally experienced that. And if my blood had not run cold to the point where I'm like, I'm going to kill this guy, and I knew that killing him meant I was going to be dead, divine intervention, like a nun opened the door right at that moment. And since my blood was cold, I had the presence of mind to think and choose not to become that guy. So I left. I kicked the shit out of him. I left and I went back up. I had the best night's sleep I'd had. And, you know, I mean, that guy would rape me every night in my dreams, like for decades.
Yeah.
So I had the best night's sleep ever. And I got up and I was just laying out on my deck, hanging out in the sun. I had some music on. Didn't even think about it. In fact, I almost forgot about it. And then my roommate at the time was, you know, I hear the sliding glass door open and I see this head stick out, and he's like ground level, you know, dude, what the fuck? And I take my headphones off and the police are all around. So I was holed up in my place, and they didn't know I was there. They were trying to gain access. I wasn't sure if I had wailed on that fucking guy so hard, and I was bashing the back of his skull. I thought maybe he was dead. So considering that might be the case, I just called up Garagos's office, and then the secretary that was there said, let me push you. I go, look, there's the police are at my door. I might have killed this priest that molested me. It's fucking outrageous. And normally you go through a pathway to get into these guys, but they're like, you know, the secretary receptionist or whatever was like, no, you need to fucking take this call right the fuck now. So that's how I got that representation. And, you know, that whole trial, I mean, it went on for weeks.
I was gonna say, how long was the trial in total?
I think it was in a 3-week period. I think it was maybe a total of 12 or 13 days, which is a long time for a trial. Yeah. And I remember getting there, and there's a parking structure, and there's the courthouse, and there's hundreds of motherfuckers there, and all kinds of news and everything. And I'm walking on this kind of sky bridge to go over. My attorney's there. He's like, you ready? And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm like, you know, at least there's something else going on so that we can just sort of sneak in there. He's like, no, dude, so that's all for you. And I mean, it was BBC, you know, like, and everything. And it was just fucking insane.
And what was your strategy? What was the strategy going into the trial for your defense?
The strategy, they wanted to put me in prison for 4 years. And the strategy was, I'm going to go on the stand. The only way I can expose this guy and protect other children from this guy is just to sacrifice me, go on the stand and say, yeah, I fucking did it, but I have my reasons and I'll do the fucking time. You guys aren't going to do anything, you know, to this guy unless it was the only way I could get it out in the open. So I did that. And, but I mean, there's all these ins and outs of the trial, you know, his attorney was fighting for, he had his guy take the fifth. I couldn't face my accuser. It should have been a mistrial, but they wouldn't do it. And the jury had me, we found out later, they had me like not guilty because I couldn't get my Sixth Right Amendment to face my accuser. And then I went up on the stand, and I knew it would come down to this. I was the last motherfucker on there. And I just turned to, I looked every juror in the eye and I just said, look, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I did this, but I had my reasons. And unlike Father Asshole in the church, I'll take responsibility for what I did, but I'm going to expose this guy for what he is and the church for what they are. And most important, protect this other kids from this ever happening. And, when all was said and done, they found me not guilty through jury nullification, which used to be a law that a jury could nullify a verdict, which they can find you not guilty in the face of irrefutable evidence to the contrary. But then back in the slave days, you had white juries, acquitting these guys who were KKK and all this stuff. So they said, okay, that's no longer a law, but it's still like a power that a jury has. And defense attorneys can't tell the jury, judge can't tell the jury doesn't know it. Nobody really wants you to know it. But some guy saw a freaking Law and Order episode and said, I don't think we have to find this guy guilty. And so there's a lot of back and forth. And when the chips, fell, I beat the rap, and I don't say I got away with it. I think it was justice, but it easily could have gone the other way. If that guy didn't know what he was talking about, I would have had to do 4 years. And that's right about, my attorney's like, 4 years is right about where the light goes out of your eyes,
Yeah.
So,
What is,
but out of that, I tried to do something positive, and I started a nonprofit
Yeah.
trying to get rid of statutes of limitations and working with other organizations to protect children. I'm not doing that anymore. If I could go back and change one thing, like when I was going through that, there's a guy who's done, I'm not going to say his name, but over 100 films. They offered me a movie deal. They offered me a book deal. And I said, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. I need to get these laws changed to protect children. And in retrospect, I wish I had done those things because it would have given me a stronger platform and I could have achieved more.
is it too late? Has
But-
that opportunity passed?
Well, I think I made a difference and I helped advance the cause forward, and the statutes of limitations are, much, much more reasonable now. And, so I stepped back from that a few years ago. I put about 7 years into that and, got a little burnout on it. Dude, it's a terrible, nobody wants to talk about this shit. You know what I mean? But I'm proud of the work I did, and I'm grateful for the people that showed support. And I think things have changed. And actually I have a connection in Trump's White House, and I'm actually going to throw my hat in the ring to help out with this type of thing there.
What is,
I don't like what I'm seeing.
what's your relationship or your mindset with the church today?
So I've always been, I wasn't a spiritual person. My only knowledge of spirituality was organized religion. But since then I've kind of done some work and I'm spiritual. I totally believe in anybody's right, and I'll fight for their right to believe whatever they want to believe religiously. I think organized religion personally is unnecessary, destructive, crock of shit. Fuck you, I have no place. But there's a time like I wasn't in a friend's wedding because I refused to go into a church. That kind of shit's, past me now. I'll go into a church and all whatever, but there's a time I just couldn't do it.
Sure.
I felt like a hypocrite
Sure.
and all that.
That's heavy and that's really deep. And it's clear that you've done a ton of work on yourself, both before, during, and after, that helps keep you the sane and very, well put together man that you are today. I don't know if the congratulations is the right word. I would say that I'm with virtually everybody I would know of that says how incredibly proud of you we are, for doing what you did, speaking out the way you did, and getting through what you did so well. It's incredible. It's an
I
incredible
appreciate
story.
that. Dude, I feel it. And like I said, if I didn't have the support of my family and, Kappa Sigma community and a lot of I was sort of surprised, at some of the support I got just because of some of my self-loathing and stuff, and insecurities, and I'm like, whoa, man, these guys really got my back. Not that I didn't feel like they did, but you tied in with all my bullshit or whatever. And all that kind of love and support. I mean, dude, I know I can call up anybody in this fraternity, and ask for help, and they'll give it. Even if you're not jiving with certain people as much as you jive with other people, there's an underlying connection there, respect for each other, respect for what we've created, and it's still growing. Like, I love what we did going up to the Reno chapter and doing the initiation there and talking to those guys and teaching them about how to stay out of trouble. I mean, I can't believe we stayed out of trouble. I mean, we had, but we actually did what we needed to do to stay out of trouble. And we got lucky. We had a couple key figures, the president of the university and the IFC president on our side definitely helped things.
It didn't hurt.
Without a doubt. We got away with a little, but we also made the adjustments. We talked about like the hazing thing and the drinking thing, we never forced anybody to drink.
No.
I mean, we all just drank anyway. but you know what I'm saying? Like there really wasn't
Never
and a
took
lot
a
of
paddle,
things
never did a push up. It wasn't.
No, none of that. But it was always humor based, infused things of just ridiculousness.
You mentioned earlier you and Anita are big music fans. How many times did you play in the nude band at initiation?
At least 2 or 3 times.
Do you have a particular instrument that's your favorite?
Yes, the pink shillelagh.
And
I remember when I saw that with you were there. It was really disturbing and somewhat devastating. It totally unexpected.
Still scarred.
Like, this is the last thing I need right now.
Who are your favorites in the music world? The genres or the bands that you see that you want to see every time that you want to keep seeing? Like what's your favorites?
Oh, the Eagles are one. I proposed to Anita at an Eagles show during. I wasn't aware of this, but during the song "Witchy Woman," which she gets a kick out of, but we know some of the guys in that band, and I love Rush. We got tickets for those guys coming up, but we like everything across the board. Travel around to do it, and here in LA right now for this music conference thing, and pretty excited about that. I've got some instruments that I bought at auction that Joe Walsh owned. So I got his only ever owned by him is B3 Hammond. I know Steve would be jealous.
Love it.
And a guitar and some other stuff. And, I have recording equipment and all this type of stuff and good group of guys I can jam with. And it's pretty much, it's one of those things that got me through all the darkest times.
Sure. Music has that power, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hugely grateful for that.
Yeah.
But another thing is just the humor that comes with this group of guys from Kappa Sig. I mean, it's ridiculous,
Yep.
And I mean, our little sisters would just trip out on the shit that we would do, I mean,
give me the story though about the composite. Later on, you said there was the story, the Alpha Phi composite. We need to know that kind of from front to back, because I need to now then cross-reference this with those other guys that were involved in that. How did that go down?
Dude, it was me and Aldrich, maybe.
Okay.
And then 2 of my friends that were Pikes. And it was the worst night you could break into a sorority. It's like lightning, thunder, wind, terrifying, and we broke a window, like trying to get in and scared the shit out of them. And they grabbed the composite and we're running down the street and it started raining on it and fucked it up and everything. And, I think I almost got kicked out of the fraternity for that one. And I'm like, but we set the record stealing composites when we were pledges, I thought it was cool, man.
Those things aren't cheap. And you have to replace them like that when they get all that water damage. Those things are not cheap to replace.
Yeah, I do remember that. And I'm not sure I know I didn't have $3,500. I don't know what happened with that actually.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I kicked down some dough for sure, but I don't know. The house picked that up. I don't know.
Dude, you are legend. I want to close us out with a segment of the show that we're going to do every time called Stare into the Flame. Right? That's an important memory of ours that we had all through pledgeship and thereafter. I got 5 short questions with a short answer. I just want a quick hitter answer. All right.
Okay.
What active was the biggest dick to you when you were a pledge?
Tim Lyman.
What active guided you the most as a pledge?
Carl Allison / Steve Friedman.
Which house in Greek circle did you hate the most?
Sigma Nu.
I'm sorry, we were going for greasy, cheesy teaks there. Sorry, that's the correct answer.
Yeah, well, now teaks were in there, but Sigma Nu was fucking.
What single word or phrase will you always remember because of your time at EI?
Well, phrase, eat your box.
We're going to get an EYB flag to hang it at homecoming. Okay, and here you go. With a betting line over under of 5, how many fist fights did you get in with bros during your time as an undergrad?
Under.
Okay.
How many? I don't know. 1,
Okay.
I think.
All right.
And it wasn't really a fight. Mike Gonzalez punched me in the face.
Why?
I said something inappropriate to his girl.
Okay. Had it coming?
And then I was so drunk, I didn't even know I did it. As I was denying it, he just kind of gave me an overarching punch into the face.
All right. Had it coming. My man, you are awesome. And I'm grateful for you sitting down and having this chat, kicking off our little project here. It means a lot. You are an indelible memory and a bro that I'm very, very grateful for to have the association with. And I want to thank you for sharing your story because it's an important one. It's a powerful one, and it certainly helps everybody, I think, understand you better. And it's a really tragedy that it happened, and it's certainly good the way that it ended out. That you got your some sort of redemption, and you didn't have to go 4 years in prison to get it. So thank you for sharing that with us, my man.
Dude, appreciate that. Honored to be the first one chosen to do this, and I'm grateful to have the support of all you guys.
Always, bro.
I'm looking forward to the next get together.
Yeah, we need to do more of them for sure.
All right, my man.
Thanks, Will.
All right, brother.
Thank you for checking out this episode of It's Not Over Yet, a Kappa Sigma Epsilon Iota podcast featuring Will Lynch. This episode is brought to you by Los Ponchos. Your host of It's Not Over Yet is Jim Miller. Executive producers are David Cisneros, Mike Gonzalez, and John Covered Boyd. Please like and subscribe on the channel you're listening to this on. That way you get notified of all future episodes of It's Not Over Yet as they drop. If you'd like to be a guest on It's Not Over Yet, just drop us a note and we'll get you scheduled.